A very happy
Sure
Sunday.
enough.
Wow. Okay, well, I'll give the intro anyway. A very happy Sunday to everybody on this May 30th, the final Sunday and Memorial Day weekend. So a very happy day to all of you out in internet land. We have with us today Madam President Connie Erickson, who gave the talk on good grief. Very moving service. So we'll get started with Laline and go for it.
Hi, Connie. I just wanted to tell you how much I deeply enjoyed what you chose to share with us from that book, to the point where JC and I, right after the service, immediately ordered 2 copies of the book. And I was excited to find out I'm going to get mine on June 1st. What was so special was the range of different areas of grief that were explored in your talk. And I had no idea when you first said you were going to talk about good grief, what that might be. And so when I was sitting there listening, I just realized there isn't an aspect of grief I could think of that you haven't touched on. And that's when I knew I really wanted to read that book in depth and explore more. So thank you for introducing me, not only to the subject, but to the book.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay, Joanne.
My father died about 50 years ago, and I was a young mother at that time. And I know I was a very good daughter, and I know my father loved me very much. But there's one little thing where instead of inviting him to stay for dinner with my friends at dinner, I let him go out to play cards with his friends. But I don't really know if he wanted to stay with us. And that has always plagued me, because my dad was just great. So I'm glad to have this book. I too have ordered it. And I know that I will enjoy reading it. Maybe I can see some different ways to think about that. Thank you.
Well, Connie, did you want to respond to that at all?
Well, yeah, I guess I do, because that's, like I mentioned, Joanne, these griefs that we hold in our heart. And when they come popping out, we think, oh my God, just like she has. I've held that grief for 50 years, so I think that's what happens with grief. It comes and goes, and it doesn't always pop up when we expect it. And the other thing I wanted to just say to everyone that happened to us this morning, we have a neighbor that's struggling with some issues and forgetfulness and things like that. And so we were trying to deal with how to help him this morning. And it just drove home that feeling of grief, in that here's a person for years, for 30 years, we've done things with socially, and it just drove home that feeling of, it doesn't have to be someone dying. It's losing someone that you had a relationship with, and that relationship has changed. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah. And I would say, Joanne, in feeling, I don't know, feeling maybe guilty, or feeling like you could have done something more while a person was around, I would just pose the question back at you, that if your son, if your son was in your place, would you have any problem with him?
No, actually, I
Right.
talked to my father about it.
Yeah.
And my father says, it wasn't that important,
Right.
sweetheart. And
Right.
and the love that came through was just great.
Right.
But it's still, it's the only thing I have to hang on to be sorry about.
Then you are blessed.
Wow.
Yeah. Then I would say you are very blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah. JC wanted to go next.
Well, I will speak about the part that maybe was effective for me among all of you, because I was among the beginning people in this fellowship way back 50 odd years, so long ago. And so I listened to the words, to the names of the people, and I had a direct sense of knowing all but maybe 10
Mhm.
of the people on that list. And in fact, some of them were so long ago and were so memorable because they were among the first Unitarian, well, not the first Unitarians I knew, but the first people willing to step with us into Unitarianism from nowhere. And that, Edith, I recommend to you that it was, my memory for each of those people was that we began a rich adventure then. And I just want to say that because I'm the one who can.
Yeah.
I was here, and I remembered, and it was beautiful. Thank you. That was wonderful to do, Connie.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, of course, my wife being on the list, but outside of that, Jan Fritz,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
found myself missing because
Oh,
I
yeah.
always think of her whenever I hear "Crazy," the Willie Nelson song, because during choir, I would always play that and she would sing it for us. So yeah,
Yeah,
um,
we miss Jen
yeah.
a lot.
Um, Connie, did you want to respond to that at all, or?
Well, the same thing happened to me writing up the list and thinking of all the years with Jim Pratt that we did wine tasting.
Yeah.
And then I was always kind of a buddy with Michael Heyman, that
Oh.
his sense of humor was just incredible. So I too went through that list of people, and the most recent one for me is Jody Nolte.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that list was really something.
Lurley wanted to go next, and then Glennis.
Just wanted to express appreciation for your talk, Connie. But also, I think it's easy for all of us when we have lost someone to, over time, look back, oh, I wish I had said this, oh, I wish I had done that. And it really is, and I don't know what the reason is that we do this, but I think we all do it. And it just, especially when someone passes unexpectedly, where we're not prepared for it. And I know we experienced that with Izzy, and we experienced that with my mother. And so it's just comforting to know, though, that we had what the time that we had with these people was precious. And yeah, I wish we could go back in time and tell them how much we love them and how much we care for them. And unfortunately, death is inevitable. But yeah, so thank you, Connie. This was very nice.
I would just like to point out too that I feel every time we think of them, we tell them how much we love them.
Yes, and I do that. I do that. Yeah.
Glennis wanted to go next.
Well, I was doing okay until you came to the last name, Jan Woodward, who passed just before, just as COVID was really taking hold and we were closing, and we really could do nothing to speak up about that. And that actually reopened it so that I can actually bring it out and read it properly. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the service because of that,
Mm.
among other things, among a lot of other things.
Right. Yeah. Sharon.
Where are you, Sharon?
It
She's
took
here.
a while to unmute me. Connie, I did not expect the litany of names to be shared. But for me also is very poignant because it took me through my whole history with the church. And, you know, I could say something about so many of those people because they did touch my life. The one thing about the 5 gates that really hit me, besides all of them, was number 2, I think it was, loss of abilities. Because that's what I'm experiencing. And it's been tough. I didn't know for the last 2 decades that I have dry eye and that it can cause blindness. You know, I had no idea. And I've known people who have that. So I've done a lot of research on it, and not to anticipate, but to prepare myself, trying to figure out what I can do to halt it. Has been a grieving process. And now with the cottonwood pollen flying around, it aggravates it more than ever. So it's like an every second reminder. So I appreciate so much what this service has meant and what you brought to it. Thank you.
Yeah. I think of, you know, the number of possible regrets that we're able to have with people. And I guess I am blessed in that for my loss, there was nothing left unsaid, which, you know, is something that I'm continually grateful for, and very lucky. And I know that not everybody gets to have that comfort. That was filler time for somebody else to raise their hand.
All right,
Martha.
okay, well, I really appreciated how you started this morning too, Connie, talking about this neighbor of yours that is failing and going through different stages. And we all know people who are failing, including ourselves, as far as losing the ability to do things. Yesterday, I had the whole day planned of what I was going to do, and my back decided otherwise. And spasms. I had a massage, and it woke up all kinds of pain. And it's really it's beyond a knowing. And then you start thinking about, okay, we've got a house here. It's a big house, and you go through all this litany of coulda, woulda, shoulda, whata, and we're all in the same boat in a certain age group that we all are. And I'm so grateful that we have this beloved community to share these thoughts and to share the love and the support, you know, if it might be just a phone call or a Zoom call, or, you know, this is really, truly, I feel very, very blessed having this community. Thank you.
And I think Glennis, did you or Dana? Let's do Dana and then Glennis if she wants to speak.
That's Gemma.
Gemma, I'm gonna change your name.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go. Go ahead, Gemma.
I really wanted to be a part of this service because Connie showed me the lists before she started preparing them. Gemma, can you remember anybody that's missing on this list? And so I looked it over, and my mother was missing. And I thought, oh no, she can't be missing. some other people that I remembered, but I'm glad that the list was spoken and the grief sermon was great. And it too brought me through how long I've been in this church and all the people that I've known and that are not there anymore. And it was really, really good. I listened to the list a couple times, and I only didn't know about 5 people. And I thought, yeah, this is wonderful. This is what we're here for, to remember our lost people. And so thanks, Connie and everybody, for this sermon. And I'm looking forward to being together again.
Yeah, for sure.
So we can give each other hugs and hellos.
Go ahead, Connie. It's your Sunday, Connie. So anytime you want to interject.
Well, I just wanted to say, both commenting from both of the Gemma and Martha, that I really hope that we have a ritual of
me too.
recognizing people. I hope that becomes part of what we do every year. And I really would like to be a part of that, of putting that ritual together. But I think in doing it, it helped me, and I think other people see that's a good, we've had water ceremonies, you know, different kinds of ceremonies.
Yeah.
And I really hope we get a ritual that we adopt and do every year. It doesn't have to be the same, but that we commit to doing something every year.
Well, I don't know if you were there for Izzy's funeral, but I thought of the Pebble ceremony, that, you know, the
Yes,
pebbles make ripples in the water, and that's kind of like the way that we affect people, you know. And so one pebble per person would be kind of nice, I think.
Yeah, and that's
And
kind of similar to the rock ceremony that I mentioned
Mhm,
in the talk. That's a similar ceremony.
mhm. Yeah, Glennis, I think.
Well, I had about 3 different directions going at the same time, but I'm going to narrow it down to one, in that early in my life, I had a situation that involved my mother, and I'm not really going to need to go much into that any further, other than for all the next 60 years, I didn't grieve that. And I couldn't get past a certain hump within my own self-expression and my own health until I did. And it was a huge turnaround. So it wasn't a death. It was maybe the death of an ideal, or something that comes closer to what I could describe it as.
And remember the part of the talk that said that we're actually born expecting certain things.
Yeah.
When I read that, I was just like, God, that is really something, because and I think that's what you're touching on, Glennis, that in our life, there are certain things that just being alive, we've expected. And sometimes those things don't happen for us. And I think that's exactly what you're touching on, Glennis.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I intellectually knew that was the problem, but until I grieved the problem and the circumstance, it wasn't going to change.
Yeah, I can relate.
It would be nice to hear from somebody who hasn't spoken yet. I don't I don't want to call. Oh, Edith, please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Connie for that sermon. I had a partner who is now in memory care, and I found that more difficult actually than grieving a death. So I visited a different person. It's not the same person.
All right.
And all the help I can get on that. I went the first time in my life immediately after he was admitted. I took care of him for 3 years and then I couldn't do it anymore because the doctor told me, if you keep doing this 24/7, then he will be at your funeral.
Mhm.
So right after that, first time in my life, I went for about 6 months actually to a mental health facility and try to get some advice on what to do. And I've managed it now, but it's taken a number of years.
Wow.
But the grief doesn't really go away. You just have to, well, you have to accept it, basically. Just, and that's kind of sometimes hard to just say that's the way it is. And we need to make the best of it. And we had great times. We had a wonderful 10 years, which I remind myself some people never have a wonderful day in this world.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, grief is I guess it's just part of our existence,
It is.
something that we have to accept. And I found the sermon very interesting, especially also about the regrets.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, that we seem to all struggle with that. The should have, could have, would have, of life. Yeah. So anyway, I found it very helpful, and thank you.
Yeah.
JC.
All of this talk in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes has been what all of us are living. And I just want to say, and I'm thinking of one remark. We got a new board member, Ben Anderson, who is a young man with family, et cetera, et cetera. And someone said, well, what did Ben say? And I said, well, he said the first thing that there needed to be a change in the music. Oh, we can drive. I said to myself, okay, we have to prepare ourselves. Yes, we are the elders, and elders are only possible if there are youngers coming up behind. So I'm sort of warning us all, putting us on notice. There will be changes, which we will love.
Yeah,
Now,
great.
now, wait a minute. I will tell you that I included a very modern song in.
I like
this
that
Sunday
song.
Yes,
service.
you
I was going to mention it.
But see, we're all sitting at home going, and so that really doesn't count.
Can I quote
So
you
it's
on that?
just a chance when we demonstrate that our being part of a Unitarian Universalist group prepares us to be graceful about our eldership and welcoming to ideas and enthusiastic about what we can receive from and give to younger people, because we can go happily rollicking down this road together and right out the door by ourselves if we want to, and I don't think we do. So just in spite of besides all of the ways that we help each other be okay with ourselves, we need to also need to be okay with what happens as the group underneath us grows up too. Just keeping us aware.
Well, at least half of my life has been working with young people.
Good.
So I echo that sentiment. Connie, did you want to respond to that?
Well, I was just thinking that that's another loss, like our little comfort zone of all of us who are in the same stage of life, going through the same experiences. So yeah, I identify with that, that's something that we have to not hold on to so tightly, And we can grieve, but just not hold on to that.
Well, and the rituals you speak of can include that.
Sure.
Yeah, I think for me, coming to terms with areas of regret of my, for instance, my largest regret in life is not having a family, and now at this phase of my life, seeing that that is almost certainly not going to happen for me. And it's an amazing kind of comfort or peace that can settle over you when you realize, when you accept, I guess.
But I don't want you to accept. I want a grandchild.
Well,
I'm sorry, Michael. I had to. I appreciate your view, and I
What-
honor it. I
what-
just had
what-
to say to you.
What is the command key for kicking someone out?
but I would like to jump in here
Go for it.
because Dave and I were probably, oh, I don't know. I mean, we were somewhere in our 40s
Mhm.
when, the idea that we didn't have children and that was something that we both missed. And I think all of you know how many grandchildren I have right now. So it depends on how much, I guess, we miss that experience, whether or not we want to do something about it. Because in our case, we started getting kids, getting exchange students, then getting grandkids. So that's all I have to say about that. If it's
So
something,
Will, there's a way.
yeah.
I was being facetious.
I know you were. I know.
I'm gonna loan you some of my grandkids,
Yeah,
Lorelei.
Connie has grandkids to spare.
Yeah,
That's why I volunteer at the elementary school.
Yeah.
you
Uh,
bet. That's right.
Well, Paul or Kim? I don't mind putting either of you on the spot. How about Kim first and then Paul?
Well, I've been in a grieving process, and it's kind of right when you think you got it all figured out, stuff happens. Not yesterday, but last Sabbath, I was texting my aunt early in the morning saying, "Oh, what great thing or something are you going to do today on the Sabbath?" And she texts back, "Well, I'm in New Mexico at my brother's memorial with family." I'm like, "Oh, great." So I texted back to her saying, think about all the great things you did with your brother and have a good time with all your family. And I'm bawling because, I have this grief thing going on. And then, so I finally get myself together and I start getting ready. I go to church and I come to find out a church member has lost her mom over the evening. And so I was texting her and I'm in the middle of church, bawling my head off. Everyone's going around, "Oh, what's the matter with you?" So I guess I don't have this grief thing down as much as I thought I did. So now I'm going to be singing at church next week, and we're supposed to talk about stuff in between songs. And I'm going to attempt to talk about the song called "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus." And it's about a grieving widow who lost her husband. And hopefully I can get through it without a lot of tears so I can sing afterwards.
Yeah. I was playing piano for the Methodist Church this morning, and one of the songs that we did today was "It Is Well with My Soul." And
Yeah.
if anybody knows the background of that song, it was written by a man who lost everything. He lost his wife, he lost his children, he lost his fortune, reputation, just everything that could be possibly stripped away from you was done. And he wrote the poem "It Is Well with My Soul." And man, every time I hear that now, knowing the background of that story, I just like, you know it moves me in a way that not very many things do.
Mhm.
um Connie, I keep chiming. I suppose I should just let you speak if you want to speak, but
Yeah, I jump in when I'm ready.
okay. All right. I'm not gonna pester you then.
No.
Go ahead, Paul.
Connie, that was a very uh, nice and appropriate sermon. I thought it was an excellent idea to remember past members of your church. And it's been very enjoyable listening to all of you reminisce about these people. Loss is something that I think it's a bitter pill to swallow. We start off life with high expectations, and our lives are just full of all kinds of stuff. But as we get older, we start losing. It's kind of like having a basket of marbles with a hole in it. And, the further you go along, the more marbles slip out of that basket. And you have to notice and maybe kind of reminisce about that marble that you'll probably never have again because you don't know where you lost. That's how I kind of look at loss and regret, as things that you lose along the way during the path of life. So it makes it all that more important to cherish the people that are around you while you still have.
For sure. I guess I want to comment here about how much we really need to talk about our grief with each other. That in not talking about our grief, I think that we do in fact cause physical harm to
Yeah, I
ourselves.
agree.
And the more that, see, I've been thinking about this service for a couple months, me on my walks, thinking about what I'm going to write or something. And I just, some of us are used to being around people that we have a close relationship with. And over time, we hash these things out that are in our heart. But during this period of time, we haven't been close to a lot of people, maybe our partner or our spouse. And over time, which has been now 15 months, whatever, that loss of that experience of sharing all these things that we're used to sharing with someone, I think that's really taken a toll on physical health and emotional health.
I've been toying with the idea of starting up the support group again, and doing unrecorded Zoom meetings for anybody suffering with grief and trauma. So, and maybe this conversation just kind of is the kick in the butt that I need to actually put it out there.
I was going to ask you, Michael, how that had gone before when you did it.
It was like putting my soul through a meat grinder on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For everyone or just for you as the leader?
Yeah, for me.
Oh, okay. Well, how do you assess how others?
I would like to, I keep getting calls about starting it up again, so I assume it was helpful.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
It was.
Because just what Connie says, we've all been through over a year of limited intercourse.
Mhm.
And that probably makes all of us really ripe
Mhm.
for hearing other stories and realizing that we share the story, that we all share a bigger story. So good, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Are those, oh, excuse me.
No, go ahead, Connie.
I was just going to say, remember when we had covenant groups?
Yeah.
Those groups, I remember two different groups that I was a part of. And those groups gave us an opportunity to share those kinds of intimate feelings with a small group of people that we had made a commitment to trust one another with our feelings. And I can still remember the first group I was in, probably 3 of the people I didn't even know very well prior to the group. But once that group was together, that was a wonderful opportunity.
I'm hoping that we will start them again. And it will be essential if we gather new people, because we'll have to include the new and the old together. So I hope that's something we have on a list somewhere of things that will help us get started.
Well, you know, there were so many services that the church provided that I think, you know, we kind of took for granted. You know, we kind of took for granted that there was a women's group or a book group or a men's group or grief support or, you know, after sermon lunch, you know, like all of these things. And then it's gone, and it's like, you know, this huge part of your life, you know, is just gone with it. So
when you said Michael Heyman's name in the list, I just laughed because that's early morning church at 9:30, early morning, and that was such fun around Michael. Yeah.
Martha, I couldn't tell if you wanted to say something.
I just was having hosted covenant groups and having participated in book groups, et cetera, et cetera. We're very grateful that we, at least some of us, have regular Zoom meetings. And to be a part, I personally am part of a couple of Zoom meetings weekly with a couple of groups, which is, you know, it's better. It's so much more fulfilling than not having any. And we're very grateful for technology. And I can remember when all of us were so absolutely scared to death of the thought of talking to your computer. I remember Julianne suggested that at a board meeting about 3 years ago because she could not attend. And everybody's going, Zoom, Zoom, no. So yeah, but there is a real need for all these extensions. It's not just Sunday. There's a real need to keep people active. So I'm hoping that we will do some type of an inventory once we all start to get together. That's where I'm thinking in my head, as in, what is it that you really would like to do to help and to be part of?
Yeah.
I think Lane had her finger up.
Yes. Lalene's next.
I just want to underscore that we have all the materials needed. We have everything that you could possibly want, except the people to do covenant groups. I've pulled together all the organizational material, the training material, and everything else. But covenant groups traditionally have fallen under membership, and we need a committee to step forward and initiate those. The ones that were going, you know, several years ago are still going, but there aren't any new ones that have started up. So we need that to happen.
We've been joined by Dana. Hello, Dana.
Hello. It was a great sermon. I loved your readings. You all taking part in the reading of the names of all the people. It was very moving and very well done. And then the sermon was I like going through the different steps of grief and how it impacts us, whether it has to do with life and death, but our own grief in terms of this last year and all of what you're all speaking about. So I'm really glad for that sermon, and it was very appropriately timed, obviously on Memorial Day. So thank you very much, Connie, and you all from the Sunday Services Committee.
I think we should put it on our schedule of what we'll do for this time of year.
Yep,
Yeah, I agree.
I would like to, like Connie said, to have it be a permanent ceremony of some type, or at least part of a service, at least, you know, so.
I agree.
You know, I think in the mention of the covenant groups that we can be creatively thinking, each one of us, about different ways to meet this need. I mean, it's a need not just in our community of Unitarian Universalists. It's a need that we need, you know, that's throughout the world, throughout this Roseburg community. And so I think if we think creatively, like I'm interested in starting a little group that would be called My Stories. And that's my idea. And so because it's my idea, I'm willing to take that idea and put it into play. But I think that's what each of us needs to do, because we each have different modalities of expressing our grief, ways we want to do it. Some people go to certain movies with other people and they talk about the movie afterwards, or a television program, or a book club. I mean, we have all different ways that we can have time to share with each other. And so I hope we have some creative ideas about that.
I think that's a great idea.
JC, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I've been surprised, Edith, by people coming in, and I think they're here in town. Are you Roseburg, or are you from some other part of the world?
I was born and raised in Germany.
Right, but right now, where do you live?
I live in Roseburg right now.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I'm so glad.
I moved to Roseburg. I moved into Roseburg, live in Newcrest, and I drove by the church. I drive by the church all the time because it's a shortcut for me if I go to Weimar or something. And I saw the sign, and I've always, for a year now, I've been living here a year, thinking of contacting someone. But then I volunteer in an office setting, and then one day, John Asham came in. I didn't know him. And somehow, I don't know how we ever got to religion.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, and then I said, I'm really interested in this congregation. And then he he said, well, write down your email, and then he sent me a letter about a week ago with a link to Michael. And then I contacted Michael, and I always thought that, well, there's a phone number. I should just call. Why don't I just call? And then I found out that you're not actually meeting, in person yet. But I was looking for something, not traditional Christian services, but something, because I think my little well was a little empty, So I thought, well, that sounds like something I might like. And then I played all the videos. I researched, and I said, well, I believe all these things that they're saying. So
That's wonderful. I'm really glad you're local.
Yeah, I am.
So I am more.
Yeah, I like last May I moved into a little rental house I had here. I used to live out of Glide by the river in a gigantic house and it was kind of stupid. I couldn't take care of it anymore
Mm.
without cleaning help and without gardening help. And so I decided I better sell it and move into town in a small place that I'm going to be able to, take care of better myself as I'm
Wonderful, thank you.
getting up there in age. So
Well,
as we all are, I guess.
You fit right in, Edith.
Yeah.
Well, John was saying to me, well, he said to me, I think most of those people that we have in the congregation, I think they're over 75. I said, well, then I'll fit right in. I'm over 75. So
Age is definitely being the issue. It was certainly brought home for me when we were doing the service. I hurt my back, actually about 3 weeks ago, and yesterday, getting ready for the service, I slipped in the bathtub. And stepping up on that step behind the podium was really an owie. And so for the last 24 hours, I've been thinking about this person you all know who is ADHD, hyperactive, kind of, struggling around to, and so I've been thinking back on the many different, or the 5 actually, examples that Connie gave in her book. And I hadn't thought about my ever losing my hyperactive, go do this now. And I'm going around like this, waiting because the doctor said, was it Friday? I can go to physical therapy. And I'm just waiting because walking across to the garden was not fun. We had friends here visiting all week. And normally I'd be wanting to go out and eat, or go do this and go do that and show them the garden. I've seen more movies in the last 3 or 4 days.
Oh, Land, the movie, Land, Land. Absolutely marvelous.
Oh. Yeah, that's the one we wanted to see.
Definitely.
Is it in the theaters?
Maybe.
Definitely a woman's
on the
film.
TV.
Yeah, it's currently on TV. But definitely a film that women will really get and men should watch.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for the recommendation. Maybe we can redirect the conversation a little bit for anyone. Never mind. No, you know what, Laleen, what's another movie you want us to watch?
No, I have one.
Okay, thank you, Connie.
Really, and this has to do with grief. Last night I watched Nomad's Land.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just riveted to the TV because, in my opinion, that's what that movie is about. And I personally thought it was really well done. And it's
McDormand is in that, right?
Yeah, it's not a movie that you get up full of bubbles after you've watched it. In fact, you sit for a while with your own feelings of sorrow, but I think it's very good.
I agree.
That's my movie tip.
Well, Paul agrees with you, right, Paul? That's
That's a good example of the basket of marbles that had the hole in it. That character had an empty basket.
Yeah.
Begin with.
Yeah. Well, and actually, if we extend the marble metaphor a little further, it's like you drop your marbles, but it creates a path of like where you've been, So you're losing something, but you can look back on it.
Very poetic.
Yeah.
Yes, very, very Very philosophical.
Did I quote you on that? Losing
please,
marbles
yeah.
leaves the path.
Yeah, there you go. It's much, it's much better
Michael?
than birdseed, you know.
Yeah, but
Hansel and
don't the
Gretel.
marbles bounce around so there's not a straight path?
Well, there you go.
Well, yes, they do. And so it
Edith,
isn't.
Edith is
Yeah.
going to save us.
Oh, I watched My Octopus Teacher,
Oh, that's
and
good.
and I liked it a lot. It's some, in a way, it's a little sentimental, parts of it, but it's also very profound.
Hmm.
The connection with nature, which we've all lost, all of us.
Well,
And go ahead.
yeah, that's our seventh principle.
Yep.
Yeah.
That we are a part of it all.
Yeah, we are
And that
part of it all.
will restore if we open to it.
Yeah, this is what that man realizes. He realizes that we are a part of it all. We're, you know, it's.
Edith, may I ask,
Yeah.
have you called the church and left your contact information so you could
No.
get
I need to do that, I guess. Yes.
I mean, while we have you on screen,
Yeah,
of course, your
I-
contact with Michael too. But it would be good if we could get you in the mailing list.
Yes.
So you would get our weekly newsletter and things.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah. That would be great. Yes.
Sharon wanted to interject.
When people suggest movies, I need to know what streaming service they're using because it takes me quite a long time to research where I can find these. So I would appreciate that. And I have a suggestion that people check online to Uplift TV. There are always positive, eye-opening, real stories.
Uplift TV.
Uplift.
Mhm.
It's free. You can donate, but it is free and it comes out of Australia.
Oh,
And Michael, I want you to know that I have started to watch The Good Place.
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I watched that last Saturday night.
Wonderful.
It has some twists, doesn't it?
Yes, that's forking great. So
So I think that was Netflix.
yeah, it's
Okay.
Netflix.
and that movie I mentioned is on Netflix.
Ah.
And where did the Nomad?
Amazon Prime.
Okay. I got that.
But you have to pay extra, right?
What's
Yeah,
your-
but it's $4.99.
Worth
Okay.
it.
That too.
Yeah.
Go on DirecTV too. No
Well,
matter.
Michael, since we're sharing, could I share a book?
By all means.
Okay, I'm reading right now. Can you see this or not?
The end of
Yes.
your life.
Yes,
Right.
we can see that. Yeah.
Oh,
Anyhow, someone in my yoga class brought, because we share books in the yoga class, brought this in to show me. She wouldn't share it with me because she was reading it. But she was like, you know how you say to somebody, God, you got to read this book. And so she said that to me. So I ordered the book. And in the beginning, I was just like, well, why am I reading this book? I've read so many books lately having to do with grief or death, but it is really a good book. And it's the book club turns out to be a son and his mother, their book club. And anyway, and they really mention books, you know. I thought it was just a catchy title, but no, they actually talk about the books that they're reading. And the mother in the book has cancer. And so, but anyhow, it's a neat book. It's full of feelings and a good book. So that's my book share.
For me, the only book I can ever recommend for grief is The Consolation of Philosophy by Boethius. And I'm a fan of the H.R. James translation. But it
I
brought
got that
Yeah, it brought me more comfort than I think if I had to choose a Bible, it would be that one.
Repeat the title.
The Consolation of Philosophy by
Oh, yeah.
Boethius. We talked about it a little bit last week. Julianne was talking, there's a section in it, Mistress Fortune shows up and she's talking about how much she delights in taking things away from people. And so.
Okay.
Yep. Well,
I have a book to recommend.
okay.
I'm rereading it, and it's a book that I probably will reread several times. It's called Man's Search for Meaning.
Ah, yes.
Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
And while it isn't directly about, well, it is, part of it is about grief. It is a very inspiring book.
Yeah.
It's about forgiveness, basically. The main theme would be forgiveness.
Yes.
And he's written about 30 books, but that's the one that I would really recommend that people read.
Edith, my
Yes.
father was a psychiatrist, and he gave me that book when I was 15.
Really?
He gave it to all of he gave it to all of his clients.
Yeah.
And so when you said Man's Search for Meaning, I just all of a sudden was 15 again, and my father is handing me this book, and I have read the book, and yes, if you read it every 5 years, it is amazing how it changes.
Yeah.
Because of what's meaning for you at that time.
Yeah. It's a very, it is his philosophy is so amazing. It's so, the way he looks at forgiveness, and he looks,
Yeah. My
all of
brother
his,
gave it to me the day I graduated high school.
Okay. Well, wow, this turned out to be very, very fruitful. Oh, go ahead, Kim.
Well, I just recommend Psalms in the Bible. It's very soothing when you need something to listen, read.
Good point. So yeah, and thank you everybody for your recommendations and for your sharing. Connie, do you want to send us off?
Well, I guess I would send you off with the thought at the end of the talk, and that is that grieving reminds us that we've loved.
Oh,
yeah, very good.
Well, thank you all for a very enriching conversation. If you're watching online, please do like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. For everyone else, we will see you next week. Have a beautiful Sunday.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.